questions that were pre-submitted, one of which was, can I change the type of tournament after it's been approved? For example, I'd like to be able to post a regular event and be able to change it to a virtual skills event if the venue isn't open due to COVID and if teams aren't allowed to travel. Current facilities may be shut down right now, so this person's a little bit hesitant to put things into robot events, but would be more comfortable if they had the option of changing things, whether it's to make it either a virtual skills event or to allow teams that can't travel to submit things virtually. So I'm going to throw that one out to Jim.
All right, so one of the things that people are used to doing is saying, hey, I need to change my tournament, and as an event partner, there's sometimes you have to just recreate an entire event. Like if you post it as a scrimmage, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I want to make this a tournament, or you post it as a league, and then you want to make it a tournament, or a tournament want to make it a scrimmage. You can't change that. But the cool thing about all of these skills only in person, skills only video conferencing, skills only video submission, or a tournament in robot events, they're all going to be in that tournament category. So you won't have to change anything. Basically, the only thing you're going to have to do is change the name of the event. And so as you're posting your event, we are going to make sure that everybody's name, the name of the event is very clear in what you're doing. So if all of a sudden, if everybody just posts, skills only, the teams are going to be, wait a minute, is that a video conferencing skills only? Is that an in-person skills only? Or is that a video submission skills only? So, it sounds like it'll be clear, but now that we have like 3 different categories of those, we're going to ask that you post exactly what type of event it is in the name so that people know what to look for. But they'll all be listed, in Tournament Managers, only you see this. It's going to be, the category is going to be tournament. And the difference is, as you run it, when you use Tournament Manager, the only difference you do for a skills only versus a full-size tournament is don't schedule any matches. So when you get to that, when you're working through the wizard and it asks you, what's the event schedule? Just click next, and then don't schedule the matches. Don't click that button, just hit next again and finish out through the wizard. And this will basically not schedule matches, and you can just post skills results.
Alrighty, perfect. Thank you, Jim.
Tara, can I add on to that?
Go ahead.
I think one thing that might be, and this might be what the person may have been asking too, because I know a lot of EPs in the Pacific Northwest, they're thinking about posting something for January or February, but they, again, are not sure what they're doing. They love to do an in-person events, like an actual, like our normal type of tournament. And so, I can see how it might be complicated whether to post that type of event and then all of a sudden having to switch to a skills only. I guess, and again, we're all sort of under the same boat of uncertainty. So I think teams are very flexible in that, but just being really clear on your general info section and working with your RSM, I think just communicating, keeping that communication line between those teams that are interested is really important. But there, in terms of the logistics of robot events, it's definitely possible. I think it's just more of making sure that communication between the teams, that they have that expectation. Whenever there is a significant change to an event, that's just like the most critical factor.
Alrighty, thanks, Lisa. Question from the audience is, where can I find documentations for Tournament Manager web server and VexScores.com? Throw that out there. If you are in Tournament Manager, since nobody wants to take this one, anybody? I'll do it real quick. There is a help function. Go ahead, Lisa.
No, yeah, I was going to say that the help function has a user guide that has that information. And then on our EP downloads page, we do have a section on Tournament Manager. I did hear some great feedback because of all these virtual events that are possible, to maybe if you from the community are savvy with streaming, coming up with a sort of a one-pager and some recommendations. I know there's like a million ways to do that sort of thing, but that would be a great resource too.
Alrighty, great, thanks. Another question from the audience is, can you have a skills-only league and still offer design and excellence awards?
This is Mike. I'll go ahead and take this one. We have to be as flexible as possible this year, and we were flexible even in the past. You could have a league and have non-judging. You could have events and don't have judging. We allowed that last year. And so I'm thinking going forward this year that if that's a requirement from your school district, that we may have to be flexible enough for that. So the answer is yes. And also I would highly recommend that we all use the restart guide. The restart guide will be your basis for what you can do and what you can't do, what we've already vetted and we think will happen. And then when that doesn't quite fit the way you'd want it to fit, then it's really, really important to network with your regional support manager. And they can lead you to the resources. In fact, they can even lead you to, if it's something that is really out in left field, but it's what you have to do, we have an accommodations form that they will be able to process with you so that we can get that event approved. But there are a lot of alterations. Tara, did I answer that?
Well, kind of. I'd also add a couple of other things in listening to Steve, who's our judge team advisor. One of the things that they mentioned is that during league sessions, there are times that folks will actually have a league where they're doing things. They'll submit their notebooks to the judges, because I do know that in order to get either of those awards, there's going to have to be a notebook. So again, being very flexible in how we do things, it is possible to do that. You're just going to have to work around some of the issues that may pop up.
Hey, Tara.
All righty. Yep.
One recommendation there in my history with leagues and experience I had was submitting the engineering notebooks in advance. And that's actually something you can do in the COVID world, is you could have a drop-off area if you're in that skills-only league. What that actually helped with doing was I could get the engineering notebooks to the judges, and they could do what they need to do with the rubric outside of that time. The one disadvantage though is your students don't have access to their engineering notebook for those couple of days the judges have them. So consider both the pros and the cons, but I think this year the pros are probably going to outweigh the cons of having a drop-off time or location for the notebooks, and then having some time to read through those in advance of any award ceremony that virtually or in person happens.
And I'm going to add that I know that the judging team is also looking at ways to digitally submit those things, in which case the team would be able to hold on to their notebook. But as with everything else right now, we are finalizing those plans. I do know that when we have the COVID discussion a little later this afternoon, which I'm sure you'll all be on, some of these topics are going to get hit on. The next question is from a brand new EP, and this person says, it seems like there's a lot of different options for managing tournaments. Mobile devices, desktop devices using either local networks or school networks, Raspberry Pis, etc. What's the best overall recommendation for all of this?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
All right.
So, as a brand new event partner, keep it simple. Your first event, there are so many different tools and so many different plugins and so many different things to make it easier for you. But I mean, the easiest thing is when you're just using that computer and, you have your field connected and you got, your setup like that. But, what you can really do to help yourself start out is go to someone else's event and walk around and talk with them and say, hey, how did you set this up? And you'll see what the different options are and what they're using. And you can see, oh, you know what, I might not actually need this the first time, and your event will grow. So, that's one of the things that's the beauty of this is, you can do one of these events in the lobby of a cafeteria or lobby of a school, and then you can bring it to the, stadium. So it's fully, able to grow into whatever your needs are. But, I think my best suggestion to you would be, start small and then add it as you get more and more comfortable.
I'm also
All right.
going to add a little plug in there. The new EP certification and EP guide does have some sample layouts. And again, we try to keep it the basic, and then you can expand off of there. But those will be available, the EP guide in August and the EP certification in early fall. So those will have some great diagrams, and you know, the EP certification actually has a whole unit on tournament manager and stuff. So that'll be a great resource as well.
Alrighty, thank you for that. Here's a question that was pre-submitted. If tournament manager generates final round pairings incorrectly, is there a way that we can manually adjust them? And this is for VexIQ, and I'm not really sure how it would generate rounds incorrectly. Go ahead, Lisa.
So yeah, whoever submitted that question, it'd be really helpful to kind of get a little bit more clarification on that. So in terms of the finals pairing, it's done based upon their rankings. So I haven't had an experience where after the VexIQ qualification matches have ended, they made the finals match rankings, and then they realized, oh, one of the teams went home, and they're like, oh, they're not there yet or anymore to compete. What do we do? So in that case, there is a way to undo the finals match pairings. I think it's called unlock. It's under the finals match tab there. And then once you do that, then when you start it again, you can make a team ineligible if they've left. That's really the only reason you, I think, make them ineligible there. So, but otherwise, the finals ranking is based solely on the qualification results. But if you're, I mean, it also does take out, you know, depending on how many qualification matches you have, it does take out some of those. So just, you know, if this didn't answer your question, please feel free to resubmit. Thanks.
All righty. Next one comes from the audience, and that is, what is the restart guide? And I will answer the second part of that question. That is that it should be out this Friday. So who'd like to take that?
I think the confusion is we keep mentioning this restart guide, but the session on the restart guide is next. And so you're going to hear a lot about it. That's why nobody knows about it, because we haven't actually introduced it yet. And that will be introduced in the next session.
So I'll say that Steve Rummel has been working hard on this. He's been collecting ideas from literally all over the community. It's going to include a lot of those ideas, and you need to just stay tuned for that. But the physical guide should be posted this Friday. Andy, my state mandates no sharing of equipment / supplies. How do I do this, and what type of social distancing will we have to go through?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Well, yeah, in this day and age, that's the question to answer. So if you were able to, I know this question was submitted before the summit even occurred, so maybe this person has already watched Grant's presentations yesterday, but one of the things that the GDC has come up with is, in light of the current environment, is moving the driver stations to the corners of, and I don't know if this was a question from a VRC team or a VexIQ challenge team, but in either standpoint, the driver station have been moved, and also VRC has always been a one driver allowed situation. So you really literally only need one person to touch your robot and your controller. And then in IQ, there is an allowance this year to have one single driver do the full minute. So in both scenarios, the game design committee answered the question. And like not to be repetitive, but in case you missed Grant's session, those will be posted on the YouTube, the REC Foundation's YouTube channel. I highly recommend watching both of his sessions on IQ and VRC if you didn't get a chance. He went over quite a few of the allowances for COVID.
All righty, thanks, Andy. Next question is for Jim, and it has to do with Advanced Manufacturing Challenge competition kits. Do you know if that particular competition is going to be added to Skills USA?
Yeah, so if people don't know what Skills USA is, it's an organization that does lots of different competitions. So they have like 120 different competitions, and mobile robotics is one of them. And so they use the Vex robotics, kits, and we we modify our rules to their needs. It's skills only, and so there is a middle school level that uses the IQ, and there's a high school level and a college level that uses the V5. This advanced manufacturing, that is right in their wheelhouse, and so I'm sure they will be interested in it. But we actually have to have something to show them. So we haven't even started the conversations, other than I've hinted that things are coming and I'm going to want to talk to them about it. But it'll be a couple years, because you need a proof of concept first to show them. And then they have an approval process, which it would have to go to a demo for 3 years, and then finally into competitions. So so it'll be a long planning stretch, because they do have that 3-year demo structure.
All righty. Next question comes up from the audience, and that is that I've watched tournaments from other countries where drivers in VRC have changed controller hands. Is this legal?
I can go ahead and do that. In VRC, now in IQ, of course, you have to, the way it was last year, unless there's a single team. But in VRC, quite often they will have only one controller, or they may have 2 controllers, and they are free to do it. However, there are 3 drive team members, so it can't be an adult coming over there or anything else, but they're allowed to handle the controllers themselves. Now, all of this being said, local government, state, local rules regarding the handling of equipment, things of that nature, all safety precautions in place. Steve will be talking a little bit about that on his presentations coming up.
All righty. And I'm going to go to 2 pre-submitted questions that are very similar. So I'm going to ask both of them first, and then give you a quick answer on that. And that is, if teams are able to provide digital versions of their notebook at one event and then a book form at another, what do we have in place to ensure that the engineering and design journals are available in both formats? For example, can they be scanned if they were handwritten, et cetera? Are we asking students to do both? Which specific format are we going to be looking at for digital engineering and design journals? And then the other question, which is related, is with the COVID, is there any thought about using Google Docs for engineering notebook this year? It would allow teams to collaborate, and revision histories available. The answer to both of those is going to be answered shortly. So I'm going to punt the ball down the field a little bit and say that these are going to be covered both in the judging sessions that Steve Rummel does, as well as he's also got the COVID contingency presentation, which will be up right after this one. So both of those will be answered. I will tell you that they are going to be relatively flexible on all of this year. And remember, that's kind of the key word for everything. Next one I'm going to throw to Lisa, and that is, will 5th grade students compete with middle school age students, or will they compete in the elementary age bracket? My district's elementary school stops at 5th grade.
Yeah, so the nice thing started last year is that so each team that's registered gets a grade level designation, and now that's based on the student age level rather than the classification of the school that they attend. So those age levels are specified in the game manuals under the student definition. And so it kind of allows the flexibility in terms of which program you're doing, and sort of seeing what the age levels of your students are, and then using that as your grade level designation. So just because there are some cases where someone who's technically going to a middle school might still fall under the age level that's eligible for being an elementary school team, and that's okay. They can classify themselves as an elementary school team. So my recommendation is go to the official game manuals. I wasn't sure with this question. It says VRC, but then it talks about elementary school, so I'm not exactly sure which one you're looking for there. But both game manuals have those age level designations. In terms of attending an event, that's really dependent on the event partner. The event partner does have the ability to host a grade specific event, like a VexIQ elementary only event, or a VexIQ middle school only event. Or they can do what's called a blended event. And so elementary and middle school teams are eligible to attend. So when you go to register for an event, it will have the grade level designation on there. So if it says middle school or elementary school, or if it says all, that means all in that program can attend. So for VexIQ, that would be elementary school and middle school. For VRC, that would be middle school and high school.
All righty, thanks, Lisa. Next question is going to go to Jim, and that is, with COVID-19 unquestionably having an impact on VEX events and competition this year, there's a possibility that it will be difficult enough for competition results for state events getting posted and eventually the world event. Is there a possibility that this year's game will be repeated and stretched out to next year, or will a new game be released as usual?
Well, that's a great question. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering because other programs are doing different things. But I tell you what, we have every intention of releasing a new game at the same time we always do, in April. So we have those games ready. They're already done, and we are planning on releasing them on time.
All righty, thanks, Jim. There was one question about disinfecting parts, but I'm not going to throw that out to the team because we all know that VEX is working on that, and we'll answer that question as soon as they have finished all of their tests. The nerd in me, which is an engineer, says you got to be careful what you use on different materials so you don't damage them when you are cleaning them. In any case, we haven't had any other questions for a while on the general chat. So we're going to go ahead and end this session early unless one of you wants to make a statement. Andy.
Yeah, just as a follow-up to what Jim said, and I think it was mentioned earlier yesterday, everyone should probably plan that there'll be a new challenge released at Worlds. In that being the case, getting your team registered and getting the teams in your community registered and participating, they're going to be these are such fun games. I'd hate for them to miss out. But by the pandemic going on, when if you tune into the next session, you'll hear all the different ways that we are creating avenues in which to compete with social distancing in mind. So definitely tune into the next session and register those teams and be excited, because yeah, I gotta say I'd be shocked if we replayed the game like Jim mentioned.
Oh, I'm pretty sure we won't.
I know,
Is that
right?
a safe statement, Jim?
Yes,
anyway,
that's a very safe statement. I did have a conversation with the GDC, and everybody kind of looked at it and went, "Of course we're going to have this game. We ready? We're ready." I mean, it's not in stock right now, but
we have a new and better one for next year, and rumor has it that it involves water. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but anyways, having not had any new questions in a while, the other thing I'm going to say, which is kind of following up with what Andy says, and this is kind of a philosophical thing, and it's important for us as EPs, you guys are leaders in your community, that we all try and make things as normal as possible for the kids as we move forward. So keep those questions coming in. We will compile them and answer them in the Q&A tomorrow. So that's all for this afternoon as far as Q&A. Thank you very much, guys.